This is intended to be a brief introduction to Panzura, why it's the amazing product it is, why it has won the awards that it has won, and from my point of view, how Microdesk, the Panzura Reseller of the Year, works with it and what it does. So if you don't mind, we're going to start with some quick introductions. We'll do it in alphabetical order, Andrew, Paul, and then myself.
Hi, good morning. Andrew Engledow, Panzura. I've just recently joined, been with Panzura now for about 2 months. The main reason for joining, brilliant product, perfect timing, and it answers many questions. And you know, data sizes aren't going to get any smaller, they're only going to get bigger, and the collaboration and the way in which people work is changing almost overnight. And the pandemic's had a lot to do with that, I think. People's viewpoints behind working at home and being more remote have changed. So I think it's a brilliant time to be working with Panzura. Paul.
So good morning, my name is Paul Danis. I've actually been with Panzura for about 7 years. And the reason I joined is because of the uniqueness that Panzura brings to the table, the capability of being able to share information in real time across the world and have people aware of who's working on what and how it's being, just to be able to share. It's really the key of this thing. And we'll go through the conversation. It's going to be kind of interesting. Good morning, everybody.
Good. And I'm Phil Dockrell. I work for a company called Microdesk, which is a Panzura reseller. Not only are we a Panzura reseller, but we're an Autodesk reseller. We've got over 230 consultants that work at Microdesk with like millions of years of experience. We also have software developers, and we've got projects in multiple countries on multiple continents. And what we found was working with our Autodesk partners and our Autodesk customers, we came across the same problems that pretty much every other person has got, and we looked for a solution, something that we thought we could recommend. And if you can recommend a product to a customer, it's got to be good, and that's where Panzura came in. So we've been working with Panzura for probably about 3 or 4 years now, but the last 2 years have been really intense, and beginning of this year is when I started at Microdesk. So they've brought me on to exploit the European market and take over, as they say. So yeah, that's me, that's Microdesk, that's us. And I think what everybody wants to know is why Panzura? What actually does Panzura do? Hybrid cloud storage is the main thing. And what is hybrid cloud storage? Basically, it's a way of having your data close to you, but saving the bulk of the data somewhere else. So Paul's going to correct me here, but if you're old like me, you would have bought RAM for your workstation because your hard drive is slow. And is that kind of an analogy of what a hybrid cloud solution is? Is it having the data on the edge and then kind of being able to access the bulk of your data that's stored in AWS, Google, Azure, whatever?
The issue that you have really starts out with the idea of there's applications and there's data. I mean, I can go buy a laptop and I can throw Revit on it, and that's going to have the application in front of the user. The problem that you have is really how do you get the data in front of the user? That's the biggest challenge, especially around COVID and the world that we're dealing with today. So it's really more about the idea of extending the data and making it more mobile to make it available in front of those users regardless to where they're at, if they're sitting at home, whether they're in the office. So I think RAM is a good concept of that, but it's more of the idea of, again, extending the actual data itself, the critical lifeblood of the business in front of the users. So that's the idea behind it. Does that make sense?
Okay, so we're talking about when you're working on large projects, you're using Revit, using other BIM tools. Doesn't have to be Revit, right? It can be any other tool that uses, from my point of view, because we work mainly with AEC industry, architecture, engineering, construction. So you're working on big projects, big files. What you're talking about there is kind of like latency, like the time it takes, the communication to and from the application and getting the data. Is that it?
That's exactly the case. I mean, I picked Revit because that is one of the biggest animals that is hard to wrangle, especially when you're trying to work in, let's say, London or Sydney, both at the same time. To be able to work within the same work set seems to be an absolute nightmare if it wasn't something that could give you the capability of sharing the same information across the world.
But it's in near real time, though, Paul, isn't it?
What's that?
It's in near real time, isn't it? I mean, multiple people working on the same folder in near real time.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, you know, and I think that's the important bit, isn't it? It's the fact that you've got people in multiple locations that have access to the same service, the same file, etc., and they can access it and see the changes that I've made or that you've made in near real time. I mean, that's really impressive, I think.
Okay, so my question there is, right, so that sounds very marketing-y, like it's the kind of words that the marketing
near real time.
But you're right. But the reality is that actually Panzura won the best hybrid cloud solution award, so going up against some major competition. So to kind of like at a high level point, I mean, what is the secret sauce? How does it separate the data and move things around? Is there a quick, easy way to explain that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple if you think about it. If you understand how the application works, you can slice and dice. And so we use a lot of the compression and deduplication. And really,
deduplication.
What's that?
Deduplication?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do it at a global perspective.
Okay.
What does that mean? It means that we'll recognize the users and the data, and then we can actually slice and dice that data. And what we do is we have a full copy of the actual model in each location: Sydney, New York, Los Angeles, Tokyo, London, wherever I need them to be. And then what we're using is deduplication and compression is a way of sending just the delta changes in real time from one location to another. So it gives the perception of having the same, I like to call it the single window server I cut into pieces. If everybody's in the same office, working on the same server, it just works. That's the way the application's been built. It's been built to work that way in a 30-year-old technology. What we've done is taken advantage of that and be able to split that server into pieces and put it in different locations. And they have a local copy of the data. It's just a matter of pushing just that latest bit in front of that user and being aware what the user's doing. It's that fast.
Yeah, but again, the whole point around file locking. So there is only one version, one copy, and only one person will be working on it. And those deltas go across. And we won't get into the technical reasons why, but the file locking is a way in which we secure and make sure that we have one coherent single application working at any one time.
Even in the applications, even in the applications like Revit. I mean, we're talking about Revit because, like I said, it's the big one. But Revit in a single work set can be shared across the entire enterprise, which means even the application can allow multiple users to be able to edit in that file. I mean, it is so slick. It looks like a Windows server from every user in every location. Things like Work Sharing Monitor, which is a tool that they use to determine who's working in that single office, actually can see the entire world within that single workset monitor. So that's the idea where you can have multiple users in the same file. But then if you're dealing with applications like Civil 3D or ArcGIS, where you have a single user limitation, the user will have a lock in one location and everybody else will read only. And then as soon as the guy closes it, it's immediately available in the other location, whoever wants it next.
Okay.
Makes sense?
That, I mean, yeah, that's and that is the thing, that the standout thing, right? Because I mean, like, you've got 80% of the tools, like your SharePoints and stuff like that. Those are kind of commercial tools. What you're saying, that this is a military grade, industrial strength, battle hardened enterprise storage solution that allows collaboration on huge files. Would that be?
Sorry, have you called mine marketing speak? That sounded more marketing speak than mine did.
There we go.
Well done, I've got to say, well positioned.
Well, it's coffee. I tell you what, caffeine in the morning gets you going.
Well, and it's 5:30 in the morning for me, guys. So
wow,
it's pretty good. But I actually look at more of a data fabric of what Panzura is, right? Because it's more than just a server in the corner. You really have to be resilient, and you actually identified it around the idea of some of the military grade encryptions. So I'll give you some numbers: FIPS 140-2, HIPAA compliance for the healthcare, things like that. So there's a lot of it there, but part of this is things to be resilient around the threats that occur in the world as well. Like, for example, ransomware. We actually are immune to ransomware, which seems to be an interesting thing.
Paul, those are mighty strong words, Paul. Immune to ransomware. Okay, here we go.
Ransomware. And we have, I mean, we get customers that get impacted. There was a pair of customers, one in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the other one in Lexington, Kentucky, here in the U.S. They got hit with ransomware in the first week. It was when it first came out. And literally within minutes, both of them were back and up and running, sharing the data, which, and part of the infrastructure of how we're built is actually, it's based on the concept of snapshots. We have to kind of go into it a little bit, but because of the way that we do this, it actually eliminates the needs to do any backups or at all, because I can do disaster recovery or operational recovery, right? So
again, these are pretty big statements.
It is. It is. Now you know why I've been here for 7 years, man.
Yeah. But it's all documented as well, Phil. I mean, we know we can back up everything that Paul's been saying. You know, we have drafted documents.
I think in episode 4 of our coffee mornings, we're going to talk about DR snapshots and recovery. So that'd be quite interesting to go into the nuts and bolts of that. And then, so the other question I have, because we're sort of coming up to the time really, but it's just more like from a practical point of view. I mean, it sounds pretty fantastic. We can obviously help people with proof of concepts and things like that. But if, so I know a guy, they've got offices in London, New York, and they've just they've got satellite offices around as well. So they've got some smaller offices, Birmingham, Manchester, Boston. But they've won a really big project in Dubai, like a really big one, like a game changer for this business. Realistically, how can Panzura help them with that? What are the benefits of rolling out Panzura to that business?
Well, it's in this particular case. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
No. So no, I was just thinking out loud.
Yeah. So I think really it's to be able to extend that single file system to the office in Dubai, which means that you have the actual models that you're working with in those locations. You have the users that when you're going out to the site and you take pictures, that information can be available to the designers, the architects that are part of there. And when they're taking their point cloud images and having that information have immediately available to literally who needs to do it and add it into the Revit model, for example, stuff like that. But really, it's instantaneous access to the data. Instead of taking some of the retail technologies of sync and share, you actually have a piece of that server in Dubai on the job site doing the stuff that you need to do. So think of the power of that. You actually can have an architect on site, or you can have an architect remote, and you can have one of the other guys that are part of the team actually on site, actually working through that process and making changes and have it analyzed with the rest of the team, because again, they're working on the same model in real time. That's
not a case of,
example of that.
So it's not a case of like I've saved it and I'm working on Dubai time, and then the guy in London saves some more data, and then the guy in New York has saved some more data, and the next day you come to work and you are literally collaborating. It's almost the holy grail of collaboration, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can take advantage of the follow the sun, or you can actually do it in real time. What I find is when you're getting close to the end of what I call crunch time, this is when you need to deliver the CDs, you need to deliver the client deliverables. You're getting to the point where everything has to be in place. The pictures, the drawings, everything has to be in place. And the way you do that is get everybody together, right? You want to make the collaboration across the enterprise a non-event. You just have it as a single server that everybody has the same data. There's not a question, am I working with the latest stuff? Am I making my designs based on the right information? It is, because it is the only information. It's a single source really across the world.
For the entire duration of the project, isn't it? You've got it's the foundations, and you're building on the foundations. Phil, I'll give you a comment that one of our clients in the US made. They and we can't put this in writing, but they view the Panzura service product as a competitive advantage. They think that and they've said this. They quite openly they won't act as a reference, and understandably in a competitive world, because they see it as a competitive advantage. If you think about it,
you get more people to do more work quicker.
Yeah, exactly. You're more efficient, aren't you?
Right? Yeah.
So it's the efficiency gains drive cost reductions, drive interoperability, a slicker start to finish process. It's all the other stuff that sits around the outside that adds the additional value.
Yeah,
this one could be very, very simply explained. Think about how long does it take to bring a sub on staff versus bringing somebody else on staff that happens to be from another office. The story that I've heard is about 40 minutes versus 8 months. It's
wow.
material.
Coming up to the last minute and a bit of our 20-minute coffee break session. The idea of these, again, the idea of these sessions is it should be long enough for you to have a quick cup of coffee, listen to some interesting banter, as we say here in the UK. And we've got 3 more of these, maybe 4 coming up. The next one will be going into actual bit more of a product focused talk about freedom collaboration. And yeah, we'll see. We'll have a look at that. And I know that the one after that, or the one after that, is about the snapshots, disaster recovery, backup, and all that kind of good stuff as well. So yeah, again, you're welcome to provide some feedback. This is probably going to end up on YouTube or someplace, so you can put some comments. Our details, we're available on LinkedIn. You can catch us. Our details are around, and you're very welcome to contact us with any questions that you have. So.
On that questions thing, Phil, I think we should open it up and say if people got things they want to discuss specifically, you know, either we can take it offline or we can address those issues as part of the webinars. You know, drive it out to customer need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. Brilliant. Gentlemen.
It's been an absolute pleasure, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, everyone. It's really good to meet you. Thanks a lot, Paul. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
My pleasure. Have a good day.